Hello everybody, this is Catholic Dad, episode number 429, The Intellectuals. I read a book called The Intellectuals by Paul Johnson. I went through some thinkers in history that were very influential with how the world, what has happened in the world and how it's become. Some of which were Karl Marx or Engels, Hemingway, Heinrich Ibsen, was a great poet and author, playwright, and so on and so forth. And these people that have influenced society so much, they all had something in common, which was really interesting. They were high intellectuals, but they were also very idealistic about the world, meaning they were so in love with the world and what they thought it could be, okay? So these people all had these great ideas, and they thought that they could make society a better place. Have you ever heard that before? And so these high intellectuals thought that they could make the world like almost a perfect utopia. All they had to do was have the influence and the power to do so. The really funny part about these people is that their own personal lives were a complete mess. Most of them abandoned the mothers of their children. Karl Marx, 4 out of his 6 children died before he did. I think 2 of them were by suicide, 2 were by starvation because he was a lousy provider. He always refused to work. They were all pathologically introverted for the most part. They got majorly depressed, and they also, even though they had this great love of humanity and proclaimed the love of humanity, they couldn't stand the commoner or the average person. Karl Marx in particular, by the way, the one that wrote the Communist Manifesto with Peter Engels, he would say that like I'm the common man, I love the common man, and he'd go talk to the unions, the trades unions, and he was always trying to preach revolution. And the trades unions were like, well, we don't want revolution. We just want a little bit of like workers' rights. Maybe we don't want to have to work 80 hours a week. Maybe we want some break time, a little bit of safety, better wages. That's all we want. And Karl Marx could not convince the average worker of his revolution, and he would like go back and complain to his wife or complain to other intellectuals that these people are so stupid. They don't know what's good for them. Why do they not see what's good for them? And the ironic part is, like, Karl Marx had people help him out in his house, and he refused to pay him an honest wage. He was never a good employer for the most part, and he also refused to work. He was living on he was a trust fund baby almost, and people supported him for doing thinking type things. Well, anyway, he was so disgusted with humanity in general that the average working person, that he said, I'm not a proletariat or a bourgeoisie. I think I'm aristocracy. I do much better with those people, the people that are high up, the high thinkers, and the really rich and the famous. He couldn't deal with the average Joe Schmo, like the carpenter or the chimney cleaner or something like that. Well, the funny part is all the intellectuals are like that. Their personal lives are a flipping mess. They don't know how to love their families, love their wives, support their children. And for the most part, their children come out very demented and unusual as well. And I think this is the problem with idealism, right? So let's talk a little bit about idealism versus realism. This is something I'm probably going to be talking about more in the future, but an idealistic person so loves the world, right? Loves the world and what they think it could be. And so idealistic people are constantly disappointed with the world and what it is. Realistic people, they don't have this great love of the world, but they love their lives and they love what they do because they accept the world as it is. They're not always trying to change it, and so they have a great peace in their heart. I would say idealists are probably looking for heaven on earth, and realists are probably realizing that earth will never be heaven. In some ways, it's probably more hell-like or purgatory-like, and that we're waiting for, we're living our lives to know, love, and serve the Lord as is, right? So the realists are the ones that are able to deal with great adversity, trials, and tribulations. The idealists are not. And so if, you got to think about this with regards to your own personal life. Do you see great disappointment when things don't go your way? If that's the case, ask yourself a basic question. You're probably an idealist. If when people say things and they don't say them the way you want them to say them, you're probably an idealist, I would guess, But realists are this, like when the world doesn't go your way, you go, oh, okay, well, we'll just do it a different way. That's fine. When you don't get that promotion, you say, well, I'll just work harder next time, and I'll get the promotion the next time, or I'll change jobs, or like there's always other opportunities, and you always see joy with the possibility of the world. And so I would claim that realists are are happier people with the world as it is. Idealists want the world to be the way they want it to be. And that could present a problem, because here's the problem. We all have this vocation in our life, and whatever it may be. My vocation is father, doctor, husband. Those are my vocations. And so if I were to try to enter a house of 9 kids and I wanted the house the way I wanted it, there's 10 other people there. I have to deal with them. And like, am I going to go change their behavior so I could have the world the way I want it to be? Or am I going to accept that they're a part of my life, and that we're going to be a family together and we'll have some peace with each other? Idealists tend to go home, and they tend to be angry when they get home because the kitchen's not clean enough, or the kids are pooping everywhere, or whatever else. You know what I'm saying? The chaos of family life is very hard on an idealist, and the idealists are always trying to do everything to get themselves out of their own skin and take away their own personal responsibility. And so just think about this. We're going to talk more about this in the future. Are you an idealist, or are you a realist? And think really hard to yourself. Are you genuinely a happy person with the ways of the world, or does everything get you down? Like, here's one for you. COVID, for the most part. I think this is probably a good metric. If COVID is constantly getting you mad or angry or upset, you're probably more of an idealist. You want the world to be perfect and like sterile for the most part. If you're like, COVID is what it is, if I die of it, that's okay, you're probably a realist, because you realize this mortal coil is only a mortal coil. And I would say probably we're all born a little bit idealistic. I would guess that. And I think part of the maturation process, moving from child to adult to a mature, older, wise person, is shifting your alignment from an idealistic nature to a realistic nature. And so, I'm going to talk quickly about idealistic and realistic love. I may actually do another video on this, but idealistic, to fall in love with somebody, like a spouse, you have to kind of be idealistic about it. You have to, because family life is messy. And Brad Paisley had a song like, who the heck would get on an airplane if 50% of the time it crashed? Like, why do we go into marriage? Because we have some idealism towards our future spouse. And so idealistic love is this. You have a nice young wife or husband. They're fit. They're 19 years old or 20 years old. They're healthy. They have a lot of potential. They love you. You're always doing kissy faces and happiness. You go on your honeymoon. You have a great time, and you're coming home from your honeymoon. Well, anyway, so that's the idealistic side of it. And you're coming home from your honeymoon, and you get in a car accident, and your spouse, she breaks her neck, and she's now paraplegic, and now you have to love her realistically, because that's the way of the world. Is it going to ruin your life? It's going to be so upset that you have to care for this woman that was so capable before, but now needs you in every way? Or are you going to have to actually see joy in taking care of her, changing her sheets and help her go to the bathroom, and she's incontinent and she gets bloated and she's on corticosteroids, and she's sick and she has skin breakdown and she loses her beauty, but loving her for 35 years that way until she succumbs to some infection or dies, that's a realistic love. And so that's the maturation process. If you think about it, the idealistic love is essentially loving the beautiful woman or loving the beautiful husband or whatever it is. The realistic love is loving the spouse the way they are. And if you can do that, you can master your vocation of marriage and fatherhood and motherhood, loving the way the world it is. And, it's funny, who is it? Francis Xavier Cabrini. There's this icon in my church, and every now and then, and as I'm meditating in front of, kneeling on the ground, thinking about, why isn't the world this way or that way? There's this icon in the church, and it's Francis Xavier Cabrini, and she's looking at me every single time. She's got this like judgmental look at me, like, oh, you think you have it so bad? No, I don't have it so bad at all. Honestly, you got 9 kids, you run a couple businesses, life's chaotic and it's hard and it's difficult, but it's good, and so you always got to take that step back and realize how good you have it, and give gratuity and gratefulness and happiness for what you have. And that's realistic. That's realistic love. And so when you love your spouse, you love them not because they're healthy and beautiful, right, and like helpful and whatever else. You love them because you said you would, And that's the realistic side of it. And they're going to have all these warts and bumps and everything you're gonna find out about them later in life. And stay madly in love with them, even if you have to wipe their hiney's or take care of a paraplegic or they get sick with cancer or whatever it is. Fall in love with your spouse, and that's the most realistic thing you can do. Well, anyway, this is Catholic Dad making you think about it. Please like and subscribe, get the Mass, pray the daily rosary, and have a good day. Thank you.